Today, we're diving deep into the past to uncover 5 of the most unusual inventions from the Victorian era. Let's get started with number 5, the pyrophone. The pyrophone, or fire organ, was a really strange instrument from the 19th century. It made sound in the most unexpected way by burning gas inside its pipes. This created an eerie, almost spooky sound that was unlike anything people had heard before. The instrument was invented by George Kastner, a physicist who loved mixing science with music. The pyrophone worked by lighting gases, like hydrogen or coal gas, inside glass or metal tubes. When the gas burned, it caused small explosions, and these made the air inside the tubes vibrate. This vibration created musical notes, similar to how other instruments use air, but with fire. Pretty cool, right? Despite being fascinating, the pyrophone never really caught on. It was dangerous to operate because it used combustible gases, which made people nervous. Plus, its sound was often described as creepy and not in line with the music people liked at the time. So, it remained more of a curiosity than a mainstream instrument. Number 4, the air-conditioned top hat. Imagine wearing a top hat in the heat of summer. Sounds uncomfortable, right? Well, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, someone thought of a solution: the air-conditioned top hat. This fancy piece of fashion came with a small fan or vents to help keep your head cool, showing just how creative people were back then. The air-conditioned top hat had a tiny fan powered by a battery hidden inside the hat. When the fan turned on, it circulated air around the wearer's head, making it feel cooler. Some versions also had vents or small holes to let air flow in and out, which helped with cooling without needing a fan. It was a pretty clever way to stay cool while looking stylish. Even though the idea was smart, the air-conditioned top hat had a few problems. First, the batteries used back then weren't very strong, so the fan didn't work for long. Second, the fan and battery made the hat heavier and more complicated to wear. Because of these issues, the top hat never became a common fashion accessory. Number 3, the Spherical Velocipede. Picture this. Instead of riding a bike with regular wheels, you're cruising on one big sphere. That's what the Spherical Velocipede was all about. It was an unusual vehicle from the Victorian era that used a large, round wheel to move, and it was supposed to make getting around easier, especially on crowded streets. The Spherical Velocipede was like no other vehicle. Instead of the regular 2 wheels like a bicycle, it had one big ball underneath. This meant it could move in any direction: left, right, forward, or even sideways. People thought this would make it easier to steer through busy and uneven streets. The idea was pretty cool because it could potentially be super stable and easy to control. Even though it sounded great, the Spherical Velocipede had some big problems. First, the inside of the vehicle was really complicated, with lots of mechanisms that were hard to build and maintain. Second, balancing on a big ball wasn't easy at all. It was tough to control, which made it hard for people to ride. Because of this, it never became a common way to get around. Number 2, the smoking machine. The smoking machine might sound strange, but it was an important invention used to study the effects of smoking. Instead of having people smoke, this machine did the smoking for them. By doing so, scientists could figure out what was in the smoke and how it affected people's health. The smoking machine was designed to copy the act of smoking cigarettes or cigars in a lab. It worked by pulling smoke through filters or chambers so scientists could study it. This helped researchers learn what chemicals were in the smoke and how they might be harmful. The machine was a big deal because it gave scientists the tools to research tobacco without needing real people to smoke. The smoking machine may have seemed odd, but it played a huge role in helping scientists learn about the dangers of smoking. Without it, we might not have understood just how harmful tobacco is. It's another example of how science and invention have worked together to protect public health. Number 1, the crank machine. Imagine being forced to turn a handle over and over again for hours. That's what prisoners in Victorian times had to do with the crank machine. This device was used to punish inmates by making them do exhausting, repetitive work that didn't actually accomplish anything. The crank machine was a big handle that prisoners had to turn repeatedly, kind of like they were operating a ship's winch. This hard labor wasn't meant to produce anything useful. It was just a way to keep prisoners busy and make them work really hard. It was supposed to teach them discipline through tough, monotonous labor. People soon started to realize that the crank machine was more harmful than helpful. It took a serious toll on the prisoners, both physically and mentally. Some critics called it cruel and said it didn't actually help prisoners learn anything or get ready to return to society. Because of this, many people thought it was an unfair and extreme punishment. Eventually, it was phased out as prison systems began to change and focus more on rehabilitation instead of just punishment. And there you have it. The Victorian era wasn't just about steam engines and fancy clothes. It was also a time of wild creativity and some seriously strange inventions. Thanks for watching.